Hi guys, this is video number 2. This one's going to be about my experience doing the Azure AZ-900, which is the Azure Fundamentals exam. I did this exam a month or two ago, and I'm now working to the next exam up the Azure ladder, which is the Azure Administrator, which is the 104. But I decided to make this video to talk about the AZ-900 exam, the Fundamentals exam, aiming at people who are thinking about taking this exam or people who are doing research on it and just want to know a bit more about it. So AZ-900, Azure Fundamentals, as you can probably guess, is just the very basics of what Azure is and the components of it. It's a tiny bit of Active Directory, or Azure Active Directory I should say, a tiny bit on storage, a tiny bit on virtual machine scale sets, a tiny bit on security and governance and monitoring. It's not a deep dive into each of those, it's just the basics of how each of those things work. I decided to do this exam because I'm trying to improve my cloud understanding and experience and understanding and performance and push my way up the ladder. But this exam, I have used the resources online, such as John Savill, who's a really good teacher, and I've also used the textbooks which you can get from the Microsoft website or from Amazon or any other good online retailer. It's the ones that look like this. I know this says AZ-104, but that's because I'm working towards the AZ-104 at the moment, and I've actually lent the AZ-900 textbook to somebody else. I recommend picking one of these up. They're about between 10 and 20 pounds, just depends, but try and get one secondhand if you can from somebody else, because unfortunately with textbooks these days, once you take the exam, they become worthless to you, at least, because you've taken the exam, and unless you're an instructor, you're probably not going to use them again. So as for my overall study experience with this, the way that I did it was just by going through this book stage by stage, really. So the book will outline, I think it's 5 or 6 key chapters, 5 or 6 chapters, which cover certain areas of Azure. List those out, and as you go through, write out the key points that you are taking from the paragraphs in the textbook. The only thing that I must give you a heads up for is that if you read these textbooks line by line, paragraph by paragraph, they will explain it, but sometimes they go into far too much detail for what you need to learn at the beginning, and it can be a lot of waffle, and that can put you in a situation where you're going to have an endless amount of stuff to learn and you're just never going to get anywhere. So in terms of the topics on the exam, again, it's just a basic understanding of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and so on. In essence, if you can understand and remember what each of the Azure services do, what they're called, and to some extent how they work, I reckon you can pass this exam. I know people who have said that you can pass this exam by studying for maybe 2 weeks or 1 week. I would take that with a pinch of salt. I personally started working towards this, then I had to stop because of something else that came up, and then started working on it again. I would say for someone working in IT as a technician or any kind of support role, you could probably do this between 2 and 4 weeks. If you're someone who is newer to IT, you could probably do this between maybe 4 and 6 weeks. But again, you may find some of these things a little bit easier to learn because you may have dealt with them a little bit, and you'll be able to relate to them much more, and they'll be inside your head. So a rule of thumb, again, if you're new to IT, 4 to 6 weeks. If you're already in IT with a good amount of experience, I reckon 2 weeks or maybe up to 4 weeks. As for revision, I used, again, John Savill textbook, and then I just went online to Amazon and bought a whole load of flashcards. These are actually for AZ-104, which I know is the exam above, but You know, I know you can use apps like Quizlet and Anki, but I just find that paper flashcards is the quickest thing because I can write them out really quickly. And I just wrote down questions like that would help me learn the things that I needed to learn. And then when I got to a point where I could go through all my flashcards in a random order, where I was able to get every question right, or at least a good 90-something% of them right, I then looked for a few mock questions online, not exam dumps. I'll make another video about exam dumps and why you want to stay away from them. Once I'd done that, I then booked my exam for I think 1 week or 2 weeks in advance, because I had to get ideally I wanted to get the previous day on annual leave so I could use that for study prep, and then I did it on a Saturday morning, so I took the Friday off. The exam itself, I think, is just under 60 minutes, and you get between 30 and 40 questions. So it's about just under a minute per question. There are some questions where you will look at it and think, okay, I know the answer is that, and you'll be able to figure it out very quickly. There are other questions where you may have to choose all that apply and tick a box or a series of boxes. There are other questions where you may have to identify, statement A, B, C, and link them to just, what they actually mean, and you have to kind of draw the line and link them together. I personally completed the test with about between 5 and 10 minutes to spare, and then I'll just use that to go through my questions that I had marked for review, which fortunately you can do with Microsoft exams. I believe with Cisco exams you can't actually do them. And then after that, one of the things when you do the exam is also ask for a whiteboard, because it will help you write out, maybe A, B, C, D, and you can start crossing things out, which will help you quite a bit. So ask for a whiteboard, it will help you. And then I submitted the test at the end. You have to use survey, and then I passed. And you get your printout of your certificate straight away. And that basically is just a thing that says, here's the different areas we were testing you on, and here's the how much you scored right or wrong. I believe I got about 10 or so marks beyond the pass mark. Some of the questions, in my personal opinion, were a little bit ambiguous, and I remember looking at them thinking, are they asking about this, or they really mean they're asking about that? But that's just me. I like things to be nice and organised, and life's never going to be like that. And then I passed, and then I was able to expense the cost from my employer. For those of you who are thinking, this sounds good and all, but this is a fundamentals exam, it's not really going to be worth anything. They are all worth something, otherwise they wouldn't exist. It's just that this one's aimed at people who are maybe starting from the ground up. For those of you who want to build up your CV, this is like a good next rung up the ladder, and then you can look at doing the administrator exam, and then the architect exams, and then all kinds of specialities, because there's a bunch of them and they keep on changing all the time, and they bring out new ones. So that's it. That's the AZ-900. I'm going to be working on my AZ-104 next, and I'm going to wish myself best of luck with that, because that one's not impossible, but it's got a lot on it, and I just need to get it right. But for those of you who are thinking of doing AZ-900 or wanted to know a bit more about it, then hopefully you should know a bit more about it by now, and you should feel a bit more confident. So I'll aim to upload another video about exams and other things like that. Until then, thanks very much. Cheers.